Some betrayals do not destroy you immediately. They destroy the way you see people forever. Have you ever noticed how certain wounds never truly disappear, even years later? Not because of the pain itself, but because of what the betrayal revealed about human nature. The strange thing about people is, most betrayals never come from enemies. They come from those who once made you feel safe: a friend, a partner, a family member, someone who looked you in the eyes while quietly choosing themselves over you. And with time, you begin to notice something disturbing. Some betrayals can be healed, but others permanently change the way you trust, love, and connect with people. I am the Watcher, and here, in Shadow Insight, we uncover the hidden mechanisms behind human behavior, the truths most people feel, but rarely put into words. In this episode, you will discover the 7 betrayals that leave the deepest psychological scars, and why forgiving certain actions too easily can slowly destroy your self-respect without you realizing it. Because sometimes forgiveness is not wisdom. Sometimes it is fear of losing people who never truly valued you. Watch carefully until the end, because the final betrayal is the one most people normalize, while it silently changes their entire identity. And if you've ever experienced one of these betrayals, leave a comment below. Sometimes the moment people finally speak about what happened to them is the moment they begin to see it clearly for the first time. Most betrayals never look dramatic in the beginning. That is why people tolerate them for so long. Human nature always reveals itself gradually, rarely all at once. The first betrayal often begins with something small: a strange silence when you needed support, a subtle humiliation disguised as a joke, a moment where someone protected their image instead of protecting you. At first, you tell yourself it is nothing, but then it happens again and again, until one day you realize the pattern was always there. The first betrayal you should never ignore is betrayal during vulnerability. Have you ever noticed how some people become distant the moment your life becomes difficult? When you lose money, when you fail, when you become emotionally exhausted, when you can no longer entertain them, help them, or make them feel important. That is when human relationships reveal their true structure. Many people love comfort. Very few love loyalty. And the disturbing part is, some individuals secretly resent seeing vulnerability because it reminds them of their own fears. So instead of supporting you, they emotionally retreat. The second betrayal is public disloyalty. Someone smiles with you in private, but stays silent when others disrespect you. Watch carefully when groups are involved, because social validation changes people faster than morality does. A friend who protects their reputation instead of defending you is quietly showing you where you truly stand. Most people never realize that betrayal is often passive. Not what people do, but what they refuse to do when the moment matters. Then comes the third betrayal, the betrayal of confidence. You share something personal, something painful, something you trusted them to protect. And later, you discover fragments of your vulnerability circulating through conversations that were never supposed to include you. Sometimes indirectly, sometimes disguised as concern, sometimes transformed into gossip. Freud believed that people often reveal others to elevate themselves socially, and with time, you begin to notice how true that is. For certain individuals, having access to your secrets feels like power, especially when they feel small internally. The fourth betrayal is subtle sabotage. This one is dangerous because it hides behind politeness. They congratulate you, but their energy changes when you succeed. They support your dreams publicly while quietly discouraging your momentum in private. A delayed opportunity, a negative comment disguised as advice, a lack of enthusiasm when your life improves. Have you ever wondered why some people become colder the moment you begin evolving? Because growth changes hierarchy, and many relationships are secretly built on invisible emotional balances. The moment you grow beyond the role people assign to you, their behavior changes. Not always consciously, but human ego reacts quickly when familiar dynamics disappear. And this is where most people make a mistake. They continue forgiving betrayals simply because they were not violent enough to look obvious. But hidden betrayals are often the ones that damage you the most, because they force you to slowly question your own perception, while the other person keeps pretending nothing happened. Have you ever wondered why betrayal from certain people feels almost unreal? Because the mind struggles to accept that someone who once showed affection could also become the source of emotional damage. That contradiction confuses people, And this is why many victims of betrayal spend months, sometimes years, trying to justify what happened instead of seeing it clearly. Jung believed that people often hide parts of themselves they refuse to confront. Their jealousy, their insecurity, their hunger for validation, their resentment. At first, these emotions remain invisible, but over time, pressure reveals character, especially when comparison enters the relationship. This is why success changes relationships faster than failure sometimes does. Most people think betrayal comes from hatred, but many betrayals actually come from silent comparison. Someone watches your progress, your confidence changes, others begin respecting you differently, and suddenly, their behavior shifts. Not because you attack them, but because your evolution forces them to confront what they avoided within themselves. The strange thing about people is, many can tolerate your suffering better than your transformation. Adler spoke deeply about inferiority. He believed human beings constantly compare themselves socially, even unconsciously. And once you understand this, many betrayals begin making sense. Some people betray because they feel left behind. Others betray because your presence exposes their weaknesses. And some betray simply because loyalty requires emotional maturity they never developed. This is why betrayal often appears during moments of transition, a new relationship, a new opportunity, financial success, personal growth, public recognition. These moments reveal who truly wanted your happiness and who only wanted emotional access to the version of you that felt less threatening. Then there is another uncomfortable reality. Some people do not betray intentionally at first. They slowly drift into betrayal, one compromise at a time, one lie at a time, one act of self-interest at a time, until eventually, they become someone completely different from the person you once trusted. Have you ever noticed how people rarely describe themselves as disloyal, even when their actions clearly are? Because human beings protect their self-image aggressively. They justify, they minimize, they rationalize. Nietzsche once suggested that people often rewrite morality to protect themselves psychologically. And you can see this everywhere. Someone betrays you, then explains why you deserved it. Someone abandons you, then paints themselves as the victim. Someone lies to you repeatedly, then accuses you of being too sensitive. This is why betrayal becomes psychologically dangerous, not only because of the act itself, but because many betrayers slowly manipulate reality afterward to escape guilt. And if you are emotionally attached to them, you may begin doubting your own instincts. That is the hidden mechanism most people never see in time. The betrayal is only the first wound. The second wound comes when they try to convince you that your pain is irrational. Some betrayals hurt your emotions. Others quietly reshape your entire personality. Watch carefully, because the deepest damage does not always appear immediately. Sometimes betrayal changes the way you love, the way you trust, the way you speak, the way you enter rooms, the way you see yourself. And many people never fully realize how much of their identity was altered by unresolved betrayal. One of the most dangerous betrayals is repeated disrespect disguised as familiarity. At first, the comments seem harmless: small humiliations, dismissive tones, subtle mockery in front of others. And because the relationship already exists, you tolerate it. But over time, something disturbing happens. Your nervous system adapts to disrespect. You begin minimizing behavior that would once have shocked you. This is how psychological boundaries slowly disappear, not through one catastrophic moment, but through repetition. Human beings normalize whatever they experience long enough, even emotional erosion. Then comes another betrayal most people underestimate: betrayal through convenience. Have you ever noticed how certain people only return when they need something? Your attention, your energy, your emotional support, your resources? But the moment your needs appear, their presence disappears. The relationship becomes transactional. And the dangerous part is this: sometimes loneliness makes people accept relationships that are emotionally one-sided, not because they feel respected, but because emptiness feels worse temporarily. This is why some individuals remain attached to people who continuously betray them. The betrayal becomes familiar, and familiarity can feel safer than uncertainty. Then there is the betrayal that destroys people internally the fastest: betrayal during collapse. When your life falls apart and the people you protected suddenly become strangers. This changes people permanently. Because in moments of crisis, human beings unconsciously observe who stays close, who calls, who disappears, who becomes uncomfortable around suffering, who quietly distances themselves to protect their own emotional comfort. And once you see this clearly, you can never fully unsee it. Most people never recover from the realization that some relationships only survived while they were useful, successful, entertaining, or emotionally stable. That realization creates emotional coldness, not immediately, but slowly, one disappointment at a time. And then comes perhaps the darkest betrayal of all, the betrayal of self-abandonment. Because after enough disappointment, many people begin betraying themselves before others even have the chance to do it. They silence their intuition, ignore red flags, accept disrespect early, stay where they no longer feel valued. Why? Because somewhere deep inside, they became afraid of losing connection, even unhealthy connection. This is the hidden psychological trap betrayal creates. The more pain people experience from others, the more they sometimes disconnect from their own instincts just to avoid being alone. And that is when betrayal becomes truly dangerous. Because it no longer only changes your relationships, it changes your relationship with yourself. Have you ever wondered why intelligent people sometimes remain loyal to those who continuously hurt them? Because betrayal is rarely only emotional, it is psychological, sometimes even existential. When people become deeply attached, they do not only fear losing the person, they fear losing the memories, the emotional investment, the imagined future, the version of themselves that existed inside that relationship. And this is why many individuals keep forgiving betrayals they already understand internally. Not because they are confused, but because acceptance changes everything afterward. Once you fully accept betrayal, you can no longer pretend the relationship is what you hoped it was. That realization is painful, so the mind negotiates. Maybe they didn't mean it. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe people make mistakes. And yes, human beings are imperfect. But with time, you begin to notice something important. Accidental mistakes create regret. Repeated betrayals reveal character. The strange thing about people is they often reveal themselves long before others are ready to believe them. But emotional attachment delays clarity, especially when the betrayer occasionally shows affection again, a kind message, a moment of attention, a temporary return to warmth. This creates confusion because inconsistency is psychologically addictive. The brain keeps searching for the emotional safety that existed at the beginning. And many toxic dynamics survive because people become attached to potential instead of reality. Watch carefully when someone hurts you repeatedly, but always returns with just enough kindness to keep you emotionally invested. That pattern is not always love. Sometimes it is emotional control. And then there is another uncomfortable truth most people avoid completely. Certain betrayals are forgiven because people secretly fear their own value without that relationship. They wonder, who will stay if this person leaves? Will I still matter emotionally to someone? Am I difficult to love? This is why betrayal often exposes hidden insecurity, not only in the betrayer, but inside the betrayed person as well. Because betrayal forces people to confront a painful psychological question. Why did I continue accepting what was slowly destroying my peace? And the answer is rarely simple. Sometimes it comes from childhood, sometimes from loneliness, sometimes from abandonment, sometimes from years of emotional conditioning. People who lacked stable affection early in life often normalize emotional instability later. Chaos begins feeling familiar, and familiarity can disguise itself as love. But eventually, human nature reveals something unavoidable. Every tolerated betrayal teaches people how to treat you next time. Not through words, through your boundaries. This is why self-respect is not loud most of the time. It is quiet. It appears in the moment you stop explaining your pain to people who already understood it the first time. It appears in the moment you stop negotiating your worth. And it appears in the moment you realize that forgiveness does not always require continued access to your life. Because some betrayals do not deserve revenge. They deserve distance. Most people think betrayal is only about pain, but it is deeper than that. Betrayal reveals reality. It exposes who values you conditionally, who disappears when comfort disappears, who protects their image over loyalty, and who quietly benefits from your silence. The disturbing truth is, many betrayals are not sudden. The signs were often there from the beginning. The jokes that felt slightly disrespectful, the strange envy hidden behind compliments, the emotional absence during difficult moments, the repeated excuses after repeated wounds. But emotional attachment blinded the perception, and this is the revelation most people avoid. Certain betrayals continue for years because the betrayed person keeps hoping the other will become who they pretended to be in the beginning. That hope traps people, not the betrayal itself. Watch carefully. Forgiving someone internally is not the same as reopening the door to them. Those are two very different things. Some people deserve peace from your hatred, but not continued access to your trust. And perhaps the most dangerous betrayal of all is the one where you abandon your own instincts just to keep someone close. Because the moment you stop listening to yourself, you slowly become disconnected from the only person who was present during every betrayal. You. I am the Watcher, and this was Shadow Insight. If this episode made you recognize behaviors you once ignored, leave a comment below. And subscribe to Shadow Insight for more explorations into the hidden mechanisms of human nature. Because sometimes, the people who hurt you the most were never hiding who they were. The real question is, why did you feel the need to keep convincing yourself they would eventually change?